If Coach Billy Napier wants to keep his job, that is exactly what he has to do. He has to jump all in on the transfer portal, and I think we're going to do that. We're going to try to bring in a bunch of guys who are a little bit older, but they're going to be ready to compete, and I think that's what the Gators need. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Coach Billy Napier's upgrade here. He has his first one, so we're going to spend some points here in passing game to get our quarterback off-season training boost, and then we're going to go into the receiving game and upgrade our receivers as well. I think we need development at both positions. We have a lot of young players who are really good, and to me, it makes the most sense to spend them this way. Next up, we're going to have to take a look at the players that want to leave. First up is Eugene Wilson. I hope we can get him back. He is far too important for us to lose. I'm really worried, though, about the fact that he's not very high on coming back. We also have Justice Boone, Cameron James, Jordan Castell, who I would hate to lose, Kelby Collins, Arliss Boardingham. Our only defensive tackle on the team, Lyons, is looking at transferring away. But we have 6 chances to bring guys back. And first up's Boardingham, and he decides to stay. Thankfully, we get to keep him. Then it's Miles Graham, the freshman safety. We end up losing him. He's a legacy, so I'm sad to see him go. Fletcher Wepstall, though, does come back, which will be huge for our right tackle situation. Eugene Wilson ultimately decides to transfer away, even though we tried to keep him. That's sad. Kelby Collins ends up deciding to come back, which is a big get for us. We really needed him to return. And then I decided that even though Lyons is our only D tackle, I wanted to keep the center. And unfortunately, Zamelda decided he was going to transfer away anyway. Now, this is going to be real tough. Losing Eugene Wilson III's a big loss for this team. I think Jordan Castell's a big loss for this team. I think losing 2 centers is big for the depth of this team. Like I said, we lost our only defensive tackle. We do have one in the class, and I'm hoping we can attack the portal and maybe get a few more to come in. We're just going to have to wait and see what's available and kind of go from there as we're going through and looking at all the players we're losing. Unfortunately, we lost a lot more guys to transfer than I really hoped we would, but we didn't have the upset over LSU on our resume, and we ultimately ended up finishing the season 4-8, and that's just not good enough with a loss to a bad Florida State team. So guys, we kind of lost faith, and I understand it. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our targets in recruiting. First up is McKelvin, a middle linebacker, and then it's Coffee, a punter, and then we have an athlete, Harris, who I believe is a linebacker, and then it's a cornerback. A lot of these guys so far up here are guys that we targeted early on, and we're just keeping them on our board and hoping we can get them. Now, the biggest name on our board is Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State, formerly of Alabama. We're hoping to be able to bring him in. He's our top target, and we're going to go all in to bring him in. Our next biggest target is Elijah Herring, a left outside linebacker. We're really hoping to be able to get him and bring him to the team. Now, let's take a look at some of the guys we got committed as we went through the weeks. We got Cole McKelvin at middle linebacker. We got Eric Coffey at punter. We got Eric Cash at corner. Elijah Herring at left outside linebacker did commit. We got Kobe Baines at right guard. Wide receiver William Foles committed. John Brock II at center committed. Keyshawn Hudson was a huge get for us at defensive tackle. We got James Hurd at middle linebacker as well. Continuing on, we got Russ Harris at middle linebacker. Darian Woodside at corner. Jakari Henderson, a transfer corner, committed. Aiden Gausby at free safety. He's a transfer I think can make an impact for us. Along with Sidney Porter, we got Marquez Bargman to come play center. We got VJ Edwards at middle linebacker. That is a whole ton of commits here. Now we're going to take a quick look at these guys here to show off their dev traits, and then later on we're going to go ahead and look at them in depth each, so that way we can see who's really going to be impactful for this team and who's ready as a freshman or as a transfer to start right away. Honestly, so far the guys we committed, they've been okay but a little disappointing. We got Eric Cash as an impact corner. He's all right. I like the fact that he brings some decent speed. We got Pat Hayden, who's a developmental quarterback that has star dev. I really like that. He's an athlete. We got Cesar Santoso, a 3-star JUCO quarterback that I don't expect a whole lot out of. He's more of a depth guy that I wanted to bring to the team. He's somebody that I think will be like a good backup just to have on roster. We got wide receiver Denzel Sermon to commit. He's a 4-star. He's somebody that I think will be able to make an impact in a year or two. Now, Jorge Panalto is a big get for this team. The only problem is he has no interest in staying here. He currently wants to already transfer away because he had us locked out. However, nobody else offered him a scholarship and we stayed in first place. As you can see, we ended up missing on Caleb Downs. That's really disappointing. We also missed out on Kylan Griffin, our top strong safety target. However, looking at the rest of the portal, we got Herring, we got Henderson, we got Kobe Baines, we got Aiden Gausby, who I think could start for us. Honestly, the thing is, I just don't know a lot about these guys because I don't have any information on them, which is why in the offseason, I'm not going to go real in-depth during the portal and all that. I'm just going to show off who our targets are and see what ends up happening. Maybe in the future when we have less guys on the board and we can scout them and really look at them, we'll go more in-depth. But this year, I just needed players, so I didn't want to waste points scouting different players and trying to figure out who would be the best fits. And ultimately, it ended up working out for us because we got the number 11 recruiting class. That's pretty good considering we were way lower coming into this. We were like number 57, I think. You can look at the last episode and it'll tell you for sure where we were. But these commitments ultimately led to 28 guys joining the Florida Gators, a lot of them via transfer portal, which is what I think the Gators have to do in real life anyway. Now let's go ahead and take a look at position changes. Russ Harris was a middle linebacker. Ultimately, we decided to put him at outside linebacker for now. I might end up moving him in the future, but for now, that's where we need him. And then Pat Hayden's clearly a quarterback. That's where I want him. He has good speed, good arm strength. I think he's somebody that might be able to develop for us. Now let's take a preliminary look at our roster prior to upgrades. We got Jorge Pinalto here. He's our number 2 quarterback right now. He comes in at a 76 overall, which is beastly. But ultimately, the guy you've all been waiting for, he was the cover guy of this episode, Willett, our freshman beast halfback, comes in at an 80 overall as a true freshman. There's going to be players developing around him, so I do know that that's going to lead to him maybe not having the highest overall. I expect him to still play. He is probably the greatest recruit I have ever seen. He has 96 speed. He's a power back. He is incredible. I can't wait to get on the field with him and feel how he plays because I think this kid's going to be awesome. He's going to be able to truck guys and outrun guys. He's going to be a beast. I'm just excited to get him on the field. We'll take a closer look at him later on when we go through every new player on the roster. Like I said, this is just a preliminary look. It also gives us something to look back at when it comes to upgrades and how much players develop. They don't do a good job of expressing that in this game, so this is my way of giving you a way to see how players developed and also to see what our freshmen look like right after recruiting. That just gives you that little taste, and we'll get back to it later and you can really look in depth at each guy. I will say though, overall, I'm pretty happy with our recruiting class, and I think our transfer portal class was decent. I don't think we got a whole lot of starters, but we got guys who are going to add depth, which is very, very needed on this team. We're a young team, so we're going to have players developing, and hopefully they develop quickly. And I think some of these guys, like I said, Aiden Gausby's a 78 overall. He may be our starter going in next season. That's a huge get for this team. We have young guys who can develop at other positions and overtake some of the transfers that look like they may start, which is exactly what we want. I needed depth. We lost a lot of guys in the transfer portal, and I think we did a really good job. Now we're going to hit up Elite Recruiter, and we're going to go all the way across the board here on offense with our 20 points. I think we just need to get it as high as we can on offense. Napier's an offensive guy. We want to have stronger recruiting classes because I don't think we can win the title this year, but I do think we actually stand a chance of being maybe a fringe playoff team. I'm actually quite impressed with how this roster looks right now. We don't have the highest overall players, but we have a lot of guys who have skill. DJ Lagway didn't develop as much as what I hoped he would, but he did develop in his skills, which is going to be huge for me using him on the field. Losing Eugene Wilson hurts us, but Aiden Mazzell developed really good. He's up to an 86 overall. Eugene Wilson probably would have been in the 90s and would have made this offense even more explosive. But we got good development from the guys on roster, and I think we stand a chance of still being explosive at that position. We have a lot of speed. Arliss Boardingham returned. He didn't develop as much as I hoped, but once again, he's a little bit better. And I think that's one of the things this team needed was just time, and I think that's why the Gators made the right decision bringing back Billy Napier. I've been critical of him, and it was hard to root for him coming back with how poor we've been the last few years. But it looks like things have started to turn and that development's happening. And ultimately, we lost a lot of young guys in the transfer portal, but I think we'll be all right. And I think if we can get a recruiting class like this and a transfer portal class like this, and we're going to be good. And that's why I think we're a fringe playoff team. You can see we have a lot of guys who went up, a lot of mid-80s guys or low 80s guys, but our depth is very good. Everybody jumped up into the mid to upper 70s, basically. And I think that just raises the floor of the team, which is why I think we'll be a better roster overall. The biggest problem we're still going to have, though, is the fact that we don't have a lot of high-end talent. And that's going to be what holds us back from competing to win the SEC and national championship, in my opinion. I think we're going to get into games that we're not going to be able to score enough. But like I said, looking at the development, we had some key pieces develop enough to give me hope. And I think on the offensive side of the ball, especially, we're going to feel good and we're going to be able to score points against teams that are not good. And I think we'll be able to score points against the good teams, which will give us a shot to pull off a few upsets here or there. We have USF and Virginia to open up the season, and Miami. I think all three of those can be wins. And then the SEC schedule is the same schedule we had this year. It's just all kind of moved around and jumbled. I think it's still a tough schedule, and that's why I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make the playoffs, but I think 9-3 is our target, and I do believe that's pretty attainable. Now let's take a look at our recruits that you guys have all been waiting for. A 94 throw power on Pinalto, and you can still get that a little better is nice. He has a little bit in his elusiveness. He'll be able to improve. His accuracy has quite a bit of developing it can do, along with his IQ, and I think that's going to make him probably only about a mid-80s quarterback, but he could be a starter. Next up, star dev Pat Hayden. He actually has quite a bit of development he can do. He's only a 70 overall. I think ultimately he could be a little bit better than Jorge Pinalto, which is quite shocking. Now, I did expect him to be good, but I didn't expect him to have this high of a ceiling. Hopefully he develops quickly. He's a great athlete. He's not going to get a whole lot better in that regard, but as a passer, he has a lot of room to grow, which is big for our team. Cesar Santoso, like I said, he's going to be a backup. He's somebody I brought in hoping to keep on roster as QB like 3 or 4 in the future if we don't have a developmental guy. Now, CJ Willett's the big one. Look at all the abilities this man has. He has gold and platinum on pretty much everything. He is a beast. He has so much room to grow. He's already incredible. Keep in mind, he's 5'10", 238 pounds. He has 96 speed, high 80s acceleration and agility. He has good stamina. He's super powerful. He's somebody that's just going to be an all-around great player, and he's somebody that I'm going to look to get on the field early. I'm not sure if I'm going to start him or maybe like Jaden Baugh, but he's definitely going to see the field as a freshman. He's not going to redshirt. I intend on letting him play as often as I can as long as he's healthy. Next up, we got to talk about Earl Haywood. He's another elite dev halfback that we recruited. He's a little bit more of a speed back than CJ Willett. He has very good potential, though, and I can't wait to get him out on the field. However, at a 68 overall, he's somebody I'll probably look to redshirt, and then maybe next year he'll make an impact for us. William Foles is a receiver we brought in. He has some potential. I don't know that we'll really end up seeing him much. He's more of a depth piece. It made sense to try to get a receiver in here. It's one of my things I'll always target is at least one receiver, one running back, one quarterback in every class, no matter how deep we are. Denzel Sermon's our freshman receiver that we brought in. Once again, doesn't have the highest ceiling, unfortunately. That's pretty disappointing. Taking a look at our offensive line recruits, we got Joey Lamar. He's kind of a low ceiling guard, unfortunately. He's already a 77 overall, though, so I think he might be able to get up into the low to mid 80s. He might be able to start for us. He's kind of borderline, but ultimately he'll be able to make himself at least a good depth piece for us. Then we have Terrence Figueroa, the big get across the D line for us, and he actually has pretty high ceiling, honestly. His finesse moves aren't the greatest as far as the ceiling goes, but everything else has plenty of room to grow. He's already a 76 overall. He might redshirt as a freshman and then like next year make an impact for us. Next up's 5-star defensive tackle Kenyon Matlock, and he is a 79 overall coming in, and he has a ton of room to grow. I'm excited about this guy. He's going to have to play from day one. He's our best defensive tackle on roster right now, so we have no choice but to get him out on the field, and I think he's going to be able to make an impact as a freshman. And then we're going to take a look at our depth piece we recruited in. That's Keyshawn Hudson out of the transfer portal. He actually has a pretty high ceiling at a 72 overall, but being an older player, he'll probably never reach it because he's already a junior, so unfortunately, I don't think he'll ever make much of an impact for us. Elijah Herring's the next guy we're going to take a look at. He's an 86 overall linebacker. I'm so happy we got this guy onto our team. He's going to make a big impact. I could expect to see him out there playing quite a bit. Next up's JJ Lehman, the 4-star. He comes in with star dev and a 77 overall. He actually has a decent ceiling. There are some limiting factors like his run stopping and power abilities, but I think he could be a pretty good player for us ultimately. He's going to be able to probably get into the upper 80s, I would say, with his development. I could be wrong. I'm still learning how all these devs really, truly work out. I haven't gone that far into the future on a lot of them. Next up, though, is Cole McKelvin at middle linebacker, and he has some restrictive ceilings. He's a 77 overall, and unfortunately, he has a lot of caps that are really going to hurt his development. I still think he could start for us, but I don't think he'll ever be a high-end starter. He's somebody that we could always look to replace. Probably not in the portal because portal guys don't develop in this game, but through high school recruiting, I think we should probably target more middle linebackers. VJ Edwards comes in. He has a high ceiling, but he's already a junior and only a 70 overall. He's a transfer that just added depth to our team. I don't expect him to make a big impact. Like I said, he could develop, he'll come back next year, but I'm not so sure about him. And then it's Russ Harris comes in at a 76 overall, and unfortunately with him, you can't see the ratings because he was initially a middle linebacker, and I might move him back there. I'm not sure. Mike Tripucka comes in, the 5-star. He has a pretty good ceiling, a couple of restrictive caps that I don't like, but overall, it's actually really good. He's a 75 overall, and I think he's going to be able to develop and make an impact for us. I really did hope that he would come in and have a little bit of a higher ceiling than this. These caps are kind of restrictive, and he only has star dev. Looking at Jakari Henderson, he has a lot of room to grow, but once again, he's a depth piece on this team that we brought in through the transfer portal. I'm just not sure how much of an impact he'll be able to make at a 79 overall. Maybe next year will be his best chance. Then we have our 3-star high school recruit in Darian Woodside. He actually has a lot of restrictive caps, and at a 69 overall, this guy probably will never start for us. He's probably somebody that could be cut and transfer away to another school, maybe even down to the FCS in the future. We'll see, though. He's on the team, and we'll see if he can make an impact. And then it's Eric Cash. He has Impact Devin. Look at that. His caps are much less restrictive. He's a little bit of a lower overall to 66, but he's somebody that I do believe will be able to develop. He's raw now. He's definitely going to redshirt. We have to see what he can do, through development in the offseason and whether he'll get good enough to ever play for us, but he at least has a shot. Lonnie Nash has a lot of restrictive caps, in my opinion, as well. At a 74 overall, though, he probably could be a starter, maybe a replaceable guy. He might never get that shot. He's probably going to be like a low to mid 80s at best overall, in my opinion. And then Eric Coffey, our punter, comes in. His kick power can't get any better, but it's already a 92. That's fine. He only has 66 kick accuracy, and he actually has a restrictive cap there. So that's a little disappointing, but overall, I'm not that worried about it. Now we're going to go through, and we're just going to show off where some of our guys transferred away to. It's really disappointing to lose some of these guys, but like Eugene Wilson has a ton of potential. He's at Ohio State now. We lost Jordan Castell to Florida State, so we're definitely going to see him again. We play Miami, so we'll also end up seeing Cameron James again. We won't see these two guys, I don't think. Justice Boone, maybe if we somehow reach the playoffs. Zamelda, though, at Air Force, we probably won't see him. Jamari Lyons also plays at Florida State, so we'll end up seeing him again as well. Miles Graham went to Arkansas State. I still don't know why he left, man. He's a local kid. His dad's a legacy. I really don't like the fact that he left this team. He should have stuck around for another year. Ultimately, though, guys, we're ready to get into our next season. How this is going to work out is I'm going to drop an episode. It's probably going to be about once a week for this series, so just be patient with me. The next episode will be the entire season, though, coming up for 2025. Only thing I won't show is if we make the playoffs. If we make the playoffs, that'll be its own episode, and the title will get its own episode as well, because that could be the series finale, basically. I don't expect to go that far this year, but that's how this is going to work out. I'm going to play all these games. I'm not going to sim any of them because I can't get Super Sim working quite how I like it. So I'm going to play all the games, and from there, we're just going to keep on going with the series. I'm LDJ11. I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'm out.